Hi, volleyball fans, and welcome back to Volley Talk, the podcast created for volleyball lovers who want to dig deep into what is going on in NCAA and international volleyball. I'm your host, Sarah Pavin. I'm an Olympian, beach volleyball world champion, former Nebraska Cornhusker, and longtime pro, both indoor and on the beach.
And I'm Adam Schultz, former indoor player, international volleyball coach, and the show's resident stat guy.
We're back, more volleyball discussion. As always, this week we're mixing it up a little bit. We're doing some teaching. Is it teaching? Volleyball strategy talk, yes. Offensive talk. And of course, we're going to mix in some NCAA chit chat. This week, our focus is going to be on the Big 12 teams. I mean, a few teams and kind of how they're doing now that we're at the halfway of conference play. So we are excited, as always, to dive in. So let's get started. All right. There was not a ton of eyebrow-raising, jaw-dropping excitement in the NCAA this week. There were a few things, but nothing like last week where I think we had a list of 8 matches that went sideways.
There were a lot of ranked versus unranked matches this week. Conferences were just kind of going through the motions and taking care of business.
Yeah, check those boxes, you know. For the rankings, the biggest movers of the week last week were Louisville dropped from 4 to 8, which makes sense because they lost to both SMU and Pitt. And so SMU and Pitt both jumped over them. Wisconsin dropped from 9 to 12.
Fair.
And USC jumped up to 22 from 25. Those were the biggest movers. So honestly, nothing crazy. But Louisville, I mean, they kind of deserve to drop below the 2 teams they lost to.
Can't go to 5 sets.
What, have they not won a 5-setter yet this year?
4 or bust.
The noteworthy / unexpected results, there were only a few of them. Kansas crushed TCU 3 straight.
TCU did not look good this week.
They also lost to BYU in 4. But then Kansas turned around and lost in 5 to Kansas State.
I feel like no matter what is going on, that match is always close.
In-state rivalry, the Derby match, it's always a barn burner. But still, you crush TCU. And then anyway, we've talked about these kind of inconsistencies from NCAA teams week after week. The last one is UCLA lost in 3 to Oregon. I contemplated not even bringing this up because Oregon's been doing pretty well, but they're still unranked. So
in watching that match, I liked Oregon. I think they're doing well given that they had basically a fire sale with a new coach, 15 new players. They're going to cause some problems, and I like the direction that they're heading if they can kind of keep it together. Good win for Oregon, I would say.
So that's that. The results, the rankings. Now, we just have a couple things, you know. First, Charlie Furbringer is apparently out for the season with her shoulder injury. She was back in LA this week getting treatment.
That's a big loss.
Everything we've been talking about with Wisconsin the last few weeks with their freshman setter looks like it's here to stay. Get your passing on track because you're going to have to play with this new setter for the rest of the season. That's a huge loss for them.
Massive loss. And I felt like Charlie was coming into her own. The team was kind of finally hers, given all of the graduates that left.
Finally hers. She's a sophomore.
I mean, you understand what I'm saying, though. She was molding it in the way that she liked to set and run an offense. That's never fun.
Wish her speedy recovery. That really sucks. Hate to see it. Unfortunately, part of sport. Dave Shondell, head coach of Purdue, reached his 500th win milestone. So, fun fact, he only needs 13 more wins to become the winningest coach in Purdue athletics history, which, if you are a college sports fan, as I am, Gene Cady, the legendary basketball coach, only had 512 wins throughout his career.
He'll need one more season. I don't think he'll be able to.
Yeah.
Unless they win the tournament.
He'll need another season.
Yeah.
But that is a fun fact. Congrats to him. He has been there forever. Pretty sure he recruited my sister back in the day.
We should give props to the assistant coach too. I believe her last name is Jewel. She's been there the whole time.
Katie Jewel.
Yeah. So
a tag team duo forever. So that's a big deal. And we've got Desilee's champion is going to Wisconsin. I probably butchered her name. I've never actually heard it read out loud. That's how I'm saying it. She is a Puerto Rican player. She apparently was deciding between Nebraska and Wisconsin and ultimately chose Wisconsin. Apparently this kid is just like unreal.
Is she on the national team?
She is going to, like, she's on the national team. She is an opposite, but apparently Grace Lopez, who plays for Wisconsin, ACL injury, played for Miami last year, is going to be the national team opposite. So she is probably going to have to transition to outside. So that was a big loss for Nebraska. But I feel like with Adriano and the outsides they have there, like, is it a huge loss for Nebraska?
I think it's a bigger gain for Wisconsin.
I agree. I think it's a bigger gain. The team that needed her more got her.
Yeah.
And
more
the
opportunity
team that
for her.
would have missed her more got her.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I agree with that.
So we actually got a question about this. Do you think the "we're Nebraska, we have to have a balanced team" mentality is part of the reason why she chose Wisconsin over Nebraska?
I mean,
I don't think she would even know that about them, honestly.
And it totally depends on the athlete and what they're looking for. If she's a national team athlete and she probably is going to want to have a pro career, she's looking at where can I go, where can I play right away, and where can I make a difference? Like, she's going to want to make her mark.
She's going to want a player like that. I feel like she is going to want a guarantee pretty much that she'll be on the court.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to, if you have national team aspirations, professional aspirations, which I believe she's playing professionally in Italy right now, you don't want to just spend 4 years sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
And I love Nebraska. You guys know that. They don't need any more blue chip athletes.
I also feel like Nebraska doesn't give any guarantees.
No, you can't. You have national Gatorade players of the year on the bench at Nebraska.
Yeah.
Okay. They don't need to collect any more athletes to just like pad their bench.
Agreed.
Trust me, you guys. You guys know how I feel. My alma mater here. I want them to be successful, but like, I think the team that needs her and the place where she'll have a bigger impact got her. Those are our little tidbits, not just rankings and results this week, everybody. We just had a few details as well. So yeah, that's what's happening.
We get a ton of questions about setters, about what type of offenses should you run speed, what works with this, what works with that, what are the best options. Today, what I want to do is I want to break down offensive theory. What are teams trying to accomplish?
We're going to the classroom, everybody. Take notes. Get your pens and pencils ready.
It's going to be a volleyball nerd session is what we're about to do. It could get lengthy. It could get technical.
Just a disclaimer.
Buckle in. We're going for a ride. Okay?
Get your notebooks. Here we go.
I have mine. If you're listening on podcast, you can't see it. But if you're on YouTube, I've got my notes. The first thing you should always be trying to accomplish with a good offense is putting your hitters in a good position. Above all else, no matter what you're doing, you want to put your hitters in a good position. You want to put the ball in their hitting window. So talk to me about what a hitting window is and then what it looks like being in a good position as a hitter.
My definition of a hitting window would be a set location where an individual attacker is able to basically do whatever they want, meaning they can see the block, they can comfortably hit angle if they want, they can comfortably hit line. But the thing is every hitter's window is different. Typically, players that jump really well, players that are really big, if they can do both, that's even better. Their windows are bigger than a small athlete, usually, generally speaking. So different players, different types of hitters have different sizes of hitting windows, meaning the ball can be less precise to be able to do all the things.
And the other thing I want to highlight is, as a hitter, you always have the advantage. You should be scoring. That's the premise of putting a hitter in a window. If you do that, they should be able to score. When things go sideways, and hitters lose options or the ball's outside of their window, you take away their advantage. In watching some of these college games, and again, we have setters, which is a very skilled position. You get better as you get older. But when we see misses, let's talk about how those misses affect what the options are and what you take away from the hitter. So the first one, we see this a ton. What happens with a tight set?
The hitter no longer has the advantage. Basically, it completely limits your attacking ability, period. Like if it gets tight enough and you're forced into a tip, you're kind of screwed. If it's not that tight, you have lost certain hitting angles.
Okay. And that's one we see often. So let's go. The next one would be offsets. So out of system sets, no shade to the middles, but maybe a couple middle sets where you see the ball trailing off the net or behind the hitter. What do you lose in that scenario?
Typically, you lose your vision. You're losing sight. You're losing sight of the block a lot of the time, but in the case where you're a hitter that can see maybe the whole court, you're at least losing sight of the court.
Now, you mentioned being able to see the court and the block. In your experience, how rare is it that a player can see both the block and the defenders?
I think it's pretty rare. Generally speaking, as an attacker, when you're going up to hit, as you're looking at the ball in your peripheral vision, you can see the block. You can see where the blockers are and what is available to you. There are not as many athletes who can then see the defensive setup behind the block at the same time. It is possible. There are people that are like that. But most people, when they're hitting, see the blockers.
On an inside set, what do you lose?
You lose your ability to hit line. Unless the set is high enough. If the set has a nice loop to it and you're fast enough, have a good enough step close, yeah, maybe you can hit line. But with a typical offense, typical speed, you're generally only being given the opportunity to hit angle.
And then a ball too far outside, obviously if it gets outside the antenna, you can't swing line.
Well, can I just go back? The other thing about an inside set is if you're not comfortable hitting a sharp angle, maybe that is taken away from you on an inside set too. When like personal experience, my favorite was to hit angle. So if it was really far inside, the angle was still available and it was harder for me to hit line. But some players might have the opposite issue where they're not as comfortable hitting a really sharp angle. So the angle gets taken away. On an outside set, you obviously can't hit it outside the antenna, so you can't hit anything but angle.
The final common error we see is if a set is too low. Good location, it's not too tight, but it's too low. What hampers the attacker in that regard?
You're forced into a tip. You're forced to recycle off the block. You're not able to get full power or trajectory on the ball.
Those are the most common errors we see for sets for hitters. And I like to think about it like this. If a ball is in a window, your attacker's at 100%. They have the ability to make the decision to hit whatever they want. And at 100%, you're expecting your attacker to score or at minimum to put the team in trouble. So you're getting over, a free ball or an easy ball. Every time some of these things go wrong, you reduce from 100. Let's say it's inside and tight. You might be down to 20% efficiency.
Tight inside, it's tough stuff.
Yeah. And again, these things don't happen in isolation. You can have multiple of these things happen on any given set. And so think about it as just taking away the efficacy of the hitter and their ability to make decisions. That's how I like to think about it.
We're not saying there's an expectation that the ball is perfect from the setter every single time. No. Obviously, that is the goal. The hitter is responsible for correcting errors. It's part of their job. We're talking about ideal scenarios.
Yes, this is the gold standard of what you're trying to hit. That's basic attacking. We're talking you can run that in club. It applies at all levels of volleyball, but those are the fundamentals of setting of what you're trying to accomplish. The next thing, we start to get into a little bit of the strategy. From a setting standpoint, your goal is to get your hitter less than 2 blocks. Could be 1, could be 0, could be 1.5. And what we mean by that is it's not well formed, so the middle's reaching or there's some seams. But if you can do that, your expectation is your hitter scores 9 times out of 10.
As a setter?
Setter.
Absolutely.
How do you go about doing that? And there's a bunch of different ways. And I want to lay those out, and then I want to talk about some of the pros and the cons and then how they affect the college game. Number one, the best way to get your hitters a one-on-one outside is to run a lot of middle on your side of the court. So the opposing middle has to stay with your middle and either hold there to see if they get set or commit with them. That's the easiest way to get your outside hitters.
Why do you think we say we love a
one-on-one.
middle? This is why we are always talking about running the middle.
This is strategy basics 101. Run your middle, hold the other middle, your outside hitters have a good chance of scoring. Straightforward.
But your middle needs to score some points.
Yes.
If they're just completely whiffing balls and the other middle's like, cool, bye.
And so, again, you have to be able to beat the defense in this regard. But if your middle's a threat,
we need some respect here.
yes.
They don't necessarily need to score. They need to be respected.
That's the first option. The second option, and we talk about this and we see this a ton, is the speed of the set, which means the ball gets outside to the outside hitter faster than the middle can close. And this is a strategy that we see a ton of colleges trying to implement.
But skipping step one, often.
Fair.
A lot of teams are like, we're going to run this set as fast as possible. Good luck. But we haven't run the middle. We're just slinging balls around here.
So one of the reasons I think we see this a ton in college is because the U.S. national team is incredibly good at it. They, in my opinion, not so much this cycle, but last cycle, set the gold standard for how you do this.
Yeah.
Now, talk to me a little bit about how this strategy can break down and where it can go sideways.
I mean, the faster you set the ball, the less precise the location is, which goes back to the initial discussion of putting your hitter in a good position. You are sacrificing consistent, precise location for a broken block, I would say, because you're seeing sets often get too low, too wide, too tight. Like something has to give if you're trying to set a ball really fast. And so if you're looking at a loopier, slower ball, you're able to dial in and the hitters have more choice, but that comes with hitting it with a double block. So you're picking and choosing the lesser of two evils for your team.
And two things generally have to be true if you want to run a really good fast offense. You have to pass well the majority of the time, and your setter needs to be pretty specific with their location, because it's very easy to compromise your hitters if you can't do that. And for me, this is where you see a lot of programs struggle because the setters just aren't consistent with that ball. And when it works, it's great. When it doesn't, it's super ugly.
Yeah.
An example of this for me would be TCU.
This week, the matches I watched for TCU, this was the case. Yeah, but we can get into that in a bit.
But just for some practical...
Adam's like, who can I bury right now?
So speed is an option we see quite frequently at the college level. Some done well, some not done well. One of the most common options that you can run offensively is something called an overload, where you put more hitters than there are blockers on the court. So you can do this in different places. You can either do it in the middle of the court, you can do it on the left side or the right side, but it generally entails running a back row ball on top of what your middle and or other hitter is doing. So for example, let's say we run our middle on a 51, we have our right side ball and the pass is more or less to the two side of the court. You can run a pipe or a modified pipe and a D ball over top of it. Now you have three options to choose from against two blockers. Now in this scenario, your setter is the one who's trying to find the open hitter. It's kind of like a football quarterback going through their progressions. Does the middle jump? No, set the middle. If the other middle commits with your middle, then you can run the back row ball or set it outside. So the setter is making the decision, trying to isolate the hitter. The other thing that the overload does is...
Well, you can choose, if you are running a 3-hitter system, to bring 2 hitters towards the same area and then run away from those 2 hitters. So bringing 2 hitters into the same area, similar to the overload, you're forcing the opposing team's middle to go with them, because probability, would state that you want to go where there's more hitters. By throwing the ball away, you're forcing the opposing team's middle to then chase the ball, which the goal is to create a seam in the block or a one-on-one situation. So you can, like Adam said, have more hitters than there are blockers. So 3 hitters against 2 blockers. Or you can use an overload by dragging the middle with the hitters and going away from them.
And in my opinion, I think this is the easiest offense to run. It doesn't require the same precision as a speed offense. And generally, you have 3 hitters closer to you, and closer sets are generally easier to execute. The only piece is the setter needs to find the open hitter. So to me, this is one of the easier offenses that you can run and still be highly effective. Another strategy that setters will use, and this one isn't always intentional, but it is effective, is they'll set the distance set. So what I mean by that is, let's say the pass is pushed to position 4. You still have your middle coming with you, so the opposing middle has to follow, but then they'll run the back set to the right side. And that just creates a lot of distance for the middle to have to cover in order to close the block properly. So you can see that run from passes from 4 or from passes to 2. You don't generally see teams passing like that intentionally, but it is a strategy that you will see setters use and coaches implement in those situations where the play is broken down.
I mean, yeah, it's not intentional. You don't want the pass to be bad, but when a setter is dragged to one sideline or another, the middle has to follow, because in the chance that they do decide to run the play that's really close to them, if the middle hasn't shifted with the pass, they're not going to get there. So the middle has to follow the pass a little bit to kind of counteract that short distance set. They have to chase it.
Now, the tough thing about this is that distance set is often very hard to execute well, especially on the back set.
Well, it's not going to be fast.
No.
Like, it's got to be higher.
Yes. And then the last thing you can look at, and we've actually gotten some comments about this because there are definitely some teams in the NCAA that run this, is the combo play.
Well, we saw Brazil run it really effectively, the Brazilian women with Gabi. They would always wait until like after 20 points, and then they would bring her in on like a meter ball in the middle of the court, and she would hit with like 1 block, which internationally is unheard of. But even like the teams that run the combo plays with like the left side coming in and hitting a meter ball in the middle, or the right side coming around in front, like they're often 1-on-1 or 1-on-none.
I haven't seen a ton executed at the college level. I feel like the combo plays run at the college level are always predicated on trying to get the middle to run a slide, and they just don't have anything else to do with the other hitter.
I was calling the Long Beach State game yesterday, and they ran a couple with their left side, and she had literally no block.
The combo with the left side I really like. The combo with the right side, because you want your middle to run the slide, I just think you take other hitters out of being in a good position to score.
Like run a right side on a back quick.
Yes.
Run the double quick in front and behind the setter at the same time. That could be a trip. If you have a really big block who like separates their hands well, that's just a feast for them. So, but then if you have a left-handed right side, I would run like a 31 type set in front of the setter off of 1 foot, like a lefty slide.
Yeah. Bunch of different things.
The Asian countries run these very well. They've kind of gotten away from them recently, but traditionally they do.
Well, and the goal of running the combo plays is twofold. One, it's to make the blockers pick up a new hitter. So you're switching the zone of your hitter. So now there's different blocker responsibilities, so you can create some confusion, and you're looking for seams in blocks. So that's what you're generally trying to do with the combo plays. Overall, those are the different strategies that you can implement offensively to try and put your hitters in good positions. The last thing I wanted to go over was some of the decisions I'm seeing college teams do and how they affect those different offenses and when I think they don't work. So the first one that I take issue with is teams that try and run a 6-2 and then run a super fast offense. My issue with this is a fast offense requires rhythm. It requires consistency. And now you're going, okay, I want all my attacking options all the time. I'm going to switch my setters in and out, and nobody's in rhythm. If you're going to run a 6-2, it's because you've got monsters on the pins who you want to get the ball to and have big hitters there. Slow the ball down, trust your hitters, and give them the option and the ability to be in a good position. I think trying to run a 6-2, it's hard enough to have one setter who can run that kind of speed consistently. Very few college programs have two where they can do this. I know you have the substitution rule, but I think this is a huge miss the most of the time.
I mean, there's give and take with every decision you make. And with wanting 3 hitters in the front row all the time, you are giving up a bit of rhythm for your hitters. Like, it is difficult to change setters consistently as an attacker. So yeah, there's always a give and take, and that is what you're giving up in always having 3 hitters in the front.
Let's look at the DS situation, because this is unique to college volleyball. You have lots of subs, and you have the ability to put a whole bunch of DSs in the back row pretty much consistently throughout the match. And, what are the pros and what are the cons of that? Ideally, the pro of that is that you're in system all the time, right?
To run your fast offense.
To run your fast offense. So if you run a fast offense, switching out your back row hitters, to me, makes a ton of sense. Go ahead, go all in with your strategy, dial in your consistency, go for it. What doesn't make sense to me is teams that put DSs in, but have slower offenses and don't have incredibly terminal people on the outside. If you're going to lose your back row option, you need to make sure that your other players can carry the load with a more consistent block. I understand you get more digs and there's other things that happen, but it's a sacrifice offensively. And I think that teams need to be aware of this. That back row option can add a huge amount of value to an offense, even if they're not scoring all the time just by being a threat.
And I think this is really brought to the forefront for teams that use DSs for one of their left sides and for their right side. Because then when the setter's in the front row, you literally have 2 attackers. I think the choices of who teams are taking out with the DS is really important, but not having a back row attack, it does make the offense predictable. So yeah, stay in system, run your plays, your whatever, but it's much more predictable.
And then the last thing I will say on this is I feel like a lot of coaches have an offense they just want to run. I run this offense. I do this. Well, you know what? Maybe you don't have the pieces to run that offense.
I know I was ripping Dan Meskey apart last week about various things, but the thing that I did appreciate about him is he has said that they tailor their offense and their schemes to their personnel. They aren't fixated on one particular system. So I will give him props for that.
And I think that that's huge. You either have to be an incredible recruiter and only get players who are going to fit into the system that you want, or you have to look at the players you have and go, okay, here's how we maximize all of our different strengths. And maybe that's different than what I quote unquote normally do or want to do.
But I think that speaks to a lack of coaching knowledge.
Agreed.
Like if you just run what you run, I think that speaks to the fact that you don't really understand the game or what you're doing, quite frankly.
I know that was a lot of information. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you have any questions about what we've said or any clarifications, we'd be happy to answer them or hop back on and talk about this again. But we wanted to give an overview of the options. So as you're watching games, you can go, oh, this is what they're trying to do. Oh, that missed and that affected that decision. And I'm hoping that we've provided a little added benefit to your watching experience as you go through and watch.
Little tutorial day today.
Yeah.
Little volleyball. I wouldn't even say 101. We're at volleyball 301.
This is the advanced class.
We've graduated. We get so many questions about strategy, this, that, the other. So this was kind of our advanced volleyball class for all of you nerds out there like us.
All right. So we're going to take a look at the Big 12 standings as they currently are. We're going to discuss a couple of the teams because we watched a bunch of Big 12 matches this week, and obviously we've watched them in the past.
Last few weeks, I would say.
Yeah. So let's go over some of the teams. I think we have a couple teams in top spots that maybe aren't for real or haven't had a tough schedule, so we'll look at those.
Pretenders, not
Yes.
contenders, if you missed last week's segment.
So let's go through quick opinions. quick predictions on where we think the Big 12 will end up, because it's a messy conference. It's up for grabs, kind of.
As we talked about in our conference prediction episode a few weeks ago, we said the Big 12 was the most equal across the board and the one where things could get the messiest. Probably the weakest of the Power 4 conferences, but the most exciting if you're looking at the teams playing each other.
Correct. So let's take a look at Arizona State. They obviously did well last year. They're currently 8-0
Won the conference last year.
Conference play. I think they're cruising for another conference victory. They've already beat Kansas. They beat Baylor. They beat BYU. So some of the other top teams in the conference. They are spearheaded by Bailey Miller and Naomi Glover, who, in my opinion, is a rising star for them. I've been pleasantly surprised
Oregon
watching
transfer,
her play.
I believe, yeah.
Yeah, and she is a dynamic opposite who has done fantastic. What are your thoughts on Arizona State?
Okay, I'm going to talk about these teams in the context of the Big 12. Like, I don't think they match up against the likes of a Texas or a Kentucky or teams like that. But in the context of the Big 12, I would say they probably have the best opposite in Naomi Glover. I can't think of, I mean, people from Kansas might argue that their Serbian right side gives her a run for her money, but I disagree. Super strong on the right side. I think their middles do a pretty good job. They're big, they're physical. Their left sides, they're fine, they're steady. I mean, there's a reason they're 8-0 and they've played a bunch of the top teams minus TCU. I think they play TCU this week. I like Glover, and I think she was a really good addition to that team. We saw, because Argentina Ung graduated, we're seeing the setter that typically came in when Ung was attacking run the show. And so she does have setting experience. They picked up a lot of transfer players actually from the portal in the off season, and yeah, I think they're pretty good.
They're consistent is what comes to mind when I look at Arizona State. They have a balanced offense. They're very low error in terms of mistakes that they make while they're attacking, and they definitely outserve opponents in terms of just keeping service pressure on them. I don't think there's any massive stars in the Big 12, not single players who can generally beat you. And so the fact that they're so balanced and consistent night in and night out is, I think, what's allowed them to be 8-0, and I would expect them to finish top of the conference.
Well, and Glover went down in the preseason, I believe. I think she had a concussion or something. So they had to play some other players to fill her spot, and now she's back. Yeah, they didn't go unscathed in preseason, but their schedule, I think, was like heavier than most Big 12 teams. Kansas obviously had a pretty tough preseason schedule too. Yeah, now that she's back, it's like she didn't miss a beat.
Yeah. No, they look good. Let's move to number 2 in the Big 12, who, in my opinion, should not be number 2 and won't be number 2 for much longer. So Colorado is 9-1.
I don't think anybody expected that start for them.
Okay, but they haven't played anybody.
Okay.
Right?
Fair,
so they still have to play Baylor, Kansas, Arizona State, TCU, and BYU.
Oh, so
all of the best teams.
All of the good teams.
So they're not going to finish 9-1. Now, you can only...
Are they going to go over against all these teams?
There are a few other teams sprinkled in there. Those are just the big ones that they have left to play.
But against these teams, do you think they're going to win any of them?
I don't think so. So I want you to look at these stats that I pulled for them. For opponent kills, they're 10th. For blocks, they're 6th. And for digs, they're 13th. So they don't...
How are they winning games?
They don't stop anybody. And they haven't played the good teams. So they're not getting any chances. Now, they are big across the board. In every position they have, they're at least 6 feet, including their setter. So they score well and they serve well, but they can't defend. And when you're bigger than the teams that are below you, you're going to win matches. But they're going to have problems against these good teams who are also big, but I think more skilled.
But better offensively than them.
So,
like, if their stats are that bad against the mid to low level Big 12 teams, the higher level Big 12 teams are going to decimate them. Where's your block defense at?
Yeah, it's non-existent. They're going to finish 5th or 6th, probably. Maybe 6th or 7th.
You want to know something else, though? I think they have a huge advantage when they play at home. When I played at Nebraska, we were in the Big 12, and Colorado was in the Big 12 as well, obviously. It's hard to play there. First of all, you're at altitude. And secondly, they play with that ridiculous Nike ball. I don't know if anybody has an opinion about the Nike volleyball. I sure do. It's awful. Okay, we used ours when we had to go to a Nike school. We obviously practiced with them. Otherwise, they were the balls we used in the serve machine. And if you know anything about serve machines, they destroy volleyballs. So that's how we felt about those. But the Nike balls are awful to play with. So the Nike ball, like combined with being at altitude, a recipe for disaster. So I think a lot of teams just really get messed up going there.
Fair. But again, I don't think the teams that they have left to play are going to get messed up going there. They're still going to
The year we won the national championship, the only match we lost was at Colorado.
Fair enough. But
it's an equalizer. It will make it seem more equal than it is, perhaps.
Okay, fair enough. But I still don't see them beating these teams.
It's like the wind in beach volleyball, big equalizer.
So that's Colorado.
I don't think they're going to beat the teams either. Okay, Adam's getting sassy today. Like, this is a new look.
Currently standing in number 3, the 7-3 conference record is Baylor. Give me your thoughts on Baylor.
I don't like Baylor.
Okay. Give me something a little more than that.
They're big, but I don't think they're particularly skilled. I've watched them play several times, and I get confused how they win games.
Here's some interesting things that work in their favor.
He set me up for this, everybody.
I didn't. So what you see is their 2 outsides in their libero are all freshmen. So they have some inexperienced ball control happening on the court. The general serving target in Rachmanchik has spurts where she really struggles to pass. So that really hurts them. However, what I do like, and I know you'll appreciate this, is both of their middles are in the top 4 attempts on the team. Which
I do
means,
appreciate that.
So even though they're not passing amazing.
Top 4, so one of the left sides gets set less than them.
Correct. But Rachmanchik got set 523 times so far. Then their middles, they're second. So Bipin Bay is their second most set player at 444 attempts. Then it's another outside in Bailey, who's...
Actually, okay, I will say I do like Bailey.
Correct. I like her too. She's dynamic.
I think she's pretty good.
They're inexperienced at key positions in terms of passing in their libero. So that's going to continue to get better as the season goes on. I like Bailey. She's dynamic. They try and run the middle of the court. The fundamentals aren't quite there yet, but they're trying to do the right things.
And that's fine. But I think that they're better than Colorado. I don't think that they're better than Arizona State. And honestly, I think BYU and TCU and Kansas are all better than them as well.
So you have them 5. I do think they're better than Iowa State.
I haven't watched Iowa State yet, so I'm not sure.
Again, interesting team. I like what they're trying to do. They're a little experienced on the passing and ball control side of things, but they also have a really big opposite who comes in at Grace Curl. She's 6'5". She's also starting to play a little bit better. There are pieces there. It's not quite there, but for me, they're a team that might be really interesting next year.
Well, they also bring in a Cameroonian right side as well, or is that Bipin Bay?
No, Bipin Bay's a middle, but she may play some right side.
Yeah, I feel like they kind of maybe, don't quote me on this, maybe they use her on the right side sometimes. Okay, they're fine.
Yes.
Just comparing them to the other top Big 12 teams, I don't think that they're it.
Yes, I would agree. I think they're going to finish ahead of Colorado. I think they'll finish ahead of Iowa State and behind the rest. So probably 5 would be my guess. Iowa State is next. I haven't watched them a ton, but they also haven't played anybody.
But also keep in mind, like, a bunch of these teams, they haven't played the same number of matches. Like, some teams have played 9, some have played 10, some have played 8. Like, they're kind of all over the place. So these standings are also based on an unequal number of matches.
Yeah, but currently Iowa State is 6-3, TCU is 6-3, and Kansas is 6-3. So they're in the mix in that regard. But they will be them in Colorado are
But you
going to
also have
fight
to
for
look
6
at it
and
like,
7.
sure, Kansas, they're all 6-3. Kansas bringing up the rear in that group because their overall record is worse. But Kansas's strength of schedule was way higher than in Iowa State.
So moving on, we're going to skip over Iowa State. We haven't seen them. They haven't played anybody good in the conference, really. So they're going to end up below the schedule. But I'm curious what your thoughts of TCU are. We watched both their matches this week.
A lot of TCU this season. Okay, I've said, like, from early in the season, they surprised me. They were on my list of biggest surprises in one of our early NCAA season episodes. A lot of the players that they have playing were on the bench last year in, Evan Hendricks, Becca Kelly. Their middle played last year. They lost their biggest player in Melanie Parra. And I have thought that they've been pretty good. This week, watching their games was a dumpster fire.
Well, there were two things.
Like, I don't think the hitters even knew where the ball was going when they played Kansas. This setter, Edward Scissorhands, I'm going to say.
But it started before that because Volpe, their libero, was a literal black hole.
Volpe, I think she's in there for passing maybe because defensively.
But passing-wise, she got aced off the court too.
Nothing's coming up.
She watched balls drop. She shanked balls off the side. She was not good defensively. Like their libero and their setting was not good.
I've seen Volpe pass too many balls. That's a red flag when your libero is getting targeted on service. But I will say her passing is better than her defense.
The other thing with TCU is they like to run that really fast offense. So when the passing breaks down and their setters come in and out quite regularly.
Rewind to that last segment.
We talked about this before. All of the things that could go wrong with running a fast offense went wrong for them this week. My question...
I have never seen an offense be so broken.
Broken.
It was...
a car with no wheels.
I saw somebody jump and swing at a ball and miss it. Literally miss it. The Kansas match, rough.
If we had done this segment last week, I think I would have had TCU at 2.
Behind Arizona State.
After this week, I'm on shaky ground. I'm trying to figure out, did both the libero and the setter have the same illness, sickness, or whatever was going through?
This is Adam trying to be funny.
But if that's going to continue, they're going to struggle.
I cannot express to you how bad this was. It was painful to watch. The wheels fell off and were rolling down the hill. And I like Evan Hendricks. I think she does a good job. I like their middles. I think they do well. Becca Kelly is having a good season. I think their hitters and their pieces are there. You just have to give them an opportunity. So maybe let's slow it down a little bit.
I think they need to play a 5-1. They need to find some consistency. And if they can do that, I think they're the second best team in Big 12.
I'm liking BYU these days.
We're going to get there.
I'll say at this point in the season, that kind of stuff shouldn't be happening. So from where I'm sitting right now, I'm going to put them at 3rd.
Okay. Well, you mentioned BYU, so let's go there. What do you like about BYU? Because I don't think either of us were very high on them at the beginning of the season.
They were struggling, but I think we saw TCU kind of take a tumble down a hill this week, and BYU has been
steadily improving.
Like they were 2-4 in Big 12 play, and now they're 5-4.
Yes.
Like they're gradually getting better, and they're picking the right time to do it because they're doing it against the better teams. So I don't know what the heck happened there. Somebody tell us, because we haven't been following them too closely. Like maybe there was an injury situation or whatever. But something I like about them is Sully Davis.
I'm curious to know if it just took her a little bit of time to settle in as a freshman, but she has been unbelievable this last little while.
She's really good, and I like her attitude. She is fierce.
She's a grinder.
She's a competitor.
Yes.
She is serious, like no fluff, no like let's be friends, which I'm all about. This kid can swing, and she's playing 6 rotations, which I'm also a fan of. I like her.
I also like Camavor in the middle. I think they're starting to use her well. She's big. She hits very high. She's been pretty much unstoppable in conference play when they get her the ball. So that combo and them, I think maybe finally setting her high enough, it's a little bit of a slower middle attack, but she's getting the height on it and she's really strong. So I think she's come on and done a really good job for them.
Yeah, my issues with BYU last year were their setting. I think their setter Bauer was a freshman last year, so she seems to have kind of found her own and has hit a rhythm there. And how heavily they relied on Claire Little. I thought they were missing a piece on the outside, and I thought they were missing a good right side. And I'm liking the Sully Davis addition. I think their right side has picked up compared to last year, and now we're seeing Claire Little kind of.
She's number 3 for me.
Yeah.
I know she still leads the team, but she can do it from a place of not everybody.
Yeah,
exactly. Not everybody knowing where the ball is going. So I think they've done good things. They're on a positive trajectory for me.
Yeah, I'm going to put them at honestly 1 or 2. When I originally heard that they were preseason number 1 in the Big 12, I was like, you've got to be kidding me, because they were not doing well. I can kind of see it now. So I'm going to put them at 1 or 2.
Yeah, I don't think record-wise they can catch Arizona State.
Fair.
At this point.
That's true. That's true.
I think they'll probably be 2 or 3.
That's true.
Depending on whether TCU continues to play without any wheels. And the last team I wanted to look at here, talk to me about Kansas.
Honestly, I like Kansas. They're kind of gritty, I want to say.
It's a good
They're
word
like
for it.
blue collar. They're good, but they're like nobody expects them. They're underrated, I would say. I like Reese Patak. I liked her last season. I think she's gotten so much better this season. She's running the slide very well. They've brought on a Serbian right side who is doing well for them. They lost El Nadi, who was a huge factor, but they've found the pieces, and like Nat Ulmer coming and bringing some Oregon girls too. I think that has helped. I'm liking them. I think their libero does a really, really good job.
Yeah, the record kind of surprises me. I thought they would be a little bit higher. They seem to drop bad matches. Like their losses are bad losses. And I don't know if that's a consistency
issue. Like to unranked teams as opposed to like the ranked ones?
Yeah. So they lose matches like to Kansas State. And again, I know I say this, no offense to Kansas State, but that's not a match that they should be losing. If they play well, they win. So it's games and performances like that which kill you in conference play when everybody else is racking up wins against those teams. Like Colorado's not losing to those teams. You know, that's the one thing. And with a new coach, maybe there's some changes in the style of play and things that he wants them to do that create some of that inconsistency. But for me, that's going to cost them this season in terms of their ranking here.
Midway through conference, what are your standings for Big 12?
I'm going to go Arizona State. I'm going to say TCU figures it out after this week. So TCU 2, BYU 3, Kansas, Baylor.
I'm going to do Arizona State, BYU, TCU, Kansas, Baylor.
And then Colorado.
And then Colorado 7th. I think Iowa State will finish ahead of them.
Ooh, okay. Well, for the messy conference, those are the predictions. Those are what we're seeing from those teams. I have enjoyed seeing some teams get better, some teams play poorly, at least this week. This conference has been interesting just in the progression of the teams, and there have been quite a few freshmen who are playing prominent roles in this conference, which has also been fun to watch. I love seeing how athletes kind of manage the shift to a higher league. So it's been fun to watch.
All right. Mix it up. We don't talk a ton about Big 12, so I like that we kind of devoted a segment just to them. It's been a little while. But let's dive into some listener questions. We have gotten, I say this every week, and I mean it so much.
We're almost at 100 questions sitting in the
Such
bank.
good questions, you guys. Okay, it's so hard for me to pick every week. But question 1, I know this isn't a clinical podcast, but I'd love some technical primers on being a good passer and middle blocker. Both of these skills and roles seem underrated. So how do you pass well? And with middle blockers, can you go into some depth about how to block well in general and how that starts your defensive strategy? This is a big question.
Yeah,
So
thanks for asking the easy one.
Passing. Let's start there.
So we're going to have to make this a little simpler, but it's all about angles, in my opinion. Obviously, you want to move your feet. You want to put your body in a good position to pass the ball. But the only thing that affects the trajectory of the ball is the angle of your arms on contact. Everything you do is about being stable with a good arm angle. And if you can manage that, the ball will go where you want it to go.
That's as basic as it gets. Make your forearms face the target on contact. There are definitely several trains of thought of how to pass. Some coaches really try to dial in, like, make sure you get your hips behind the ball. For me personally, that is not it. Take the ball outside your body all you want. Just make sure that your forearms face where the setter is going to be, period.
The other thing that I think a lot of people do poorly, or is a very helpful hint, is you don't want to change the height of your head when you're moving to pass. So the more your head bobs up and down, the harder it is to track the depth of the ball. So when you're moving, if you can stay level and consistent as you track the ball into your platform, you'll have a better read on where it's going, how deep it is, and you'll be in a better position to make any adjustments for balls that float. As you move, stay level, no bouncing up and down. That will also help you track the ball and get your platform to the right place.
Pretty sure I had some people tell me that I never passed. I'm here to set the record straight. I did pass for 2 seasons in college and all throughout club and everything, and 1 year professionally. So I am slightly qualified to talk about this. The way that I always think about it is to do your routine, do whatever you need to do, but as soon as the hitter is about to make contact, make sure you're stopped, because then all of your movement can happen from there. As Adam was saying, don't stand up. Stop and keep your position. The other thing I would say is I see so many people get caught on high balls just standing up and trying to get them that way. You need to open your hips and drop your foot back to create that angle. Standing up taller and basically getting hit in the chest with the ball is not how you pass a high ball. You have to open your hips, drop your foot back, and dip your shoulder to create that angle with your arms. So those are the tips that I would probably give for passing. What about blocking?
Eye work. It's the most important thing you can do as a blocker, but specifically as a middle blocker. And there's always a sequence that you should follow. And it's ball setter, ball hitter. Along those eye progressions, you're making decisions. Right off the pass, you're deciding, are we in system or are we out of system? So you're making that decision so you know where you're going to have to move. If it's a good pass, you got to stay with your middle. If it's a bad pass, you're looking for the ball to go outside to one of the pins or maybe in the back row. You want to eliminate options as you make these decisions. So that's the first one. So when they go ball setter, after you know whether the setter is in system or out of system, you are looking at the setter for a hint of where they're going to put the ball. Don't watch the ball. It's not going to tell you anything. The setter is what's going to tell you where they're going to set the ball. So maybe they drop their hands when they're setting out to the outside. Maybe they only jump when they set the middle. There are tells that you will be able to pick up if you watch the setter. So you're watching the setter, then they set the ball, and now you want to quickly look at the ball one more time to see if it's a good set or a bad set. It's very, very quick. And then you're keying in on the hitter that is getting set. So you're watching them. Where is their approach? You're watching their shoulder. You want to know what their speed is. And that's going to help you with your lineup. But then it's also going to allow you to be in the right place and get hands to ball when you're blocking, which is super important. That's a lot of information. It's much harder to do.
Wow, did he even breathe? Thanks for that explanation.
But the one, I'm passionate about middle blocking, all right? The one other thing I will say, don't dip your head. You got to keep your eyes on the hitter. Most people, or a lot of people, close their eyes or tuck their chin. Keep your eyes open. Watch your hitter.
Biggest takeaway, do not watch the ball when you're blocking. It does not tell you anything. Watch the hitter or the setter. The only thing I would add is if you are playing against a more complex team where the middles are running, shoot sets or quicks behind or slides or whatever, and it's a perfect pass, if you want to kind of a basic way to kind of counteract that, wherever you see the middle going, kind of take a couple steps in that direction because that is the set that's coming fastest, that you have the least time to react to. So as a middle, you kind of want to slightly follow where the opposing team's middle is going and then react after the ball leaves the setter's hand to the outside should it go there. All right, question 2. I'm a Wisconsin Badger fan now that I live in Madison, but grew up in Hawaii and was there for the great Hawaii women's teams of the 80s and 90s. I'm sad to see the Hawaii women not in the national championship conversation consistently anymore. Can you discuss whether teams from the mid-major conferences can ever be in the national championship conversation again, or are the days of Hawaii, Pacific, and Long Beach State long gone?
I mean, I think realistically, it's tough. With the NIL and now with the transfer policy, it's tough to get and keep athletes. You're probably not going to see top tier recruits go to those schools. However, I think you've got to create something where people want to come. You have to lean into what your strengths are. So Hawaii, great place to live, great experience. You can use that to recruit. And then you need to find a way, and this applies to everybody, but coaches need to find a way to keep their players. And you do that by creating experiences and relationships that they can't get anywhere else. It's not just about the volleyball and getting the kid to come to your school. You need to keep working on that relationship, which takes a lot of work, but it is doable. You see athletes follow coaches when they change schools. You can create those relationships. It's effort, it's caring, it's daily. It's not just volleyball. So I think it is possible, just harder.
Yeah, the NIL and the transfer portal definitely make it tough, but you can never say never. Question 3, can you explain why the Cressy Blackshear play where Cressy goes on the slide is not a good play? Is it only bad because they aren't setting Cressy on the slide and it would become a good play if they did? Or is it just something about that play and the dynamics specifically?
Go ahead.
So this is a combo play situation like we talked about earlier in the episode. Kara Cressy is not wonderful off of 2 feet. She is predominantly used and is most effective off of 1 foot, which is the slide behind. Blackshear, while she does score on that play sometimes, her efficiency, in my opinion, is not very high. I think it could be a good play if you would actually set Cressy the ball on that play. But in all of the times that I've watched Louisville play, they tend to set Blackshear on that substantially more often than they set Cressy. If you're going to set Blackshear, keep her on the right side where she's more comfortable, where she's more effective, more efficient. Like, you're not tricking anybody at this point. I think in theory, it could be a good play. I think it could be made better if they actually set the person it was designed for.
Fair.
Question 4, is Kentucky relying too heavily on their 2 outsides and not running enough of a balanced offense? Is this something to worry about come tournament time?
I actually think that they've done a better job as the season has gone on, trying to run their middles, and with the right side substitution they made, they do set her the ball as well.
I think they've gotten better at balancing things out. At the beginning of the season, it was
heavy.
Whoa.
I think 107 sets to the left sides in total in one match, if I'm remembering correctly.
That's crazy stuff.
The other thing I will say, though, is unlike just running a right side, you do have the ability to run those 2 out of the pipe, which they do, which also helps ease things around the court. So it's not quite the same as just overusing one player, but yes, middles and right sides need to continue to get set.
I don't think it's something to worry about. Like you said, they have kind of looked elsewhere, and it's different with a lot of the teams we've talked about, like the Pitt, the Penn States, the Wisconsins, where it's 1 player. At least in this scenario, worst case, it is 2. But like Lizzie Carr is scoring pretty well. Baltimore's scoring pretty well. Daly coming in does a good job. So I don't think it's something to worry about. Okay, question 5. At the Power 4 level, how many unsuccessful seasons do you think a coach can have before it's time for a school to look into other options?
That depends on what the school's mandate
Let's
is.
talk about Ohio State for example. This is a major athletic institution. They are currently bageled in Big Ten play and have not been good for a little while, just as an example.
So if we're going to talk about that example specifically, I think it depends on A, why all of her athletes left, because they would have been better, and B, I mean, this season was going to be tough because you lost literally everybody you recruited.
Okay, we're not talking about this season. We're talking about like multiple seasons back to back.
If the mandate is to win, I think it's 3 seasons.
I think it's tricky though because these coaches sign multi-year deals, and like to break those deals, I think it depends on how important volleyball is to the school. Like Ohio State, for example, #1 football team in the country for the last couple of years. Do they really care that much about volleyball? I don't know. Do they care enough about volleyball to pay out a coach and fire her? You know what I mean? Like it's tough. Like how much are you paying out a coach to break their contract? And is it worth it to your school to do so? Because they're making bank off of their football team.
There's all kinds of factors. If we're looking at straight, how long do you need to turn a program around?
Like let's take money out of it.
Exactly.
Okay, taking money out of it.
By year 3, you should be seeing improvements in your program. You should have been able to change the culture. You should have been able to recruit some of your own players, of creating the identity that you want, and you should have been able to improve the technical abilities of the athletes that were there in 3 years, all things being equal, in my opinion.
That is our roster of questions for the week. Keep them coming. Love to read them. Again, you guys are making it really hard for me to pick a handful every week, but love it. So hopefully you enjoy those answers this week.
As always, we got a few matches that we think you should watch this week that we will be watching. So on the docket, Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, TCU versus Arizona State. We talked about this.
This is the one we talked about.
Can TCU turn it around and make this a game? I think it's going to be fantastic.
This is your top 2 for Big 12.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, we have Nebraska and Wisconsin. That may warrant a match breakdown next week, depending on how it goes.
Will Nebraska drop a set? What's your prediction?
I'm going to say no because Charlie's not playing.
I know. I'm going to say no too. We said that Nebraska would drop a set in Big Ten play, but
I don't think it's going to be to Wisconsin in their current state.
I don't think it's coming.
Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern, USC versus Minnesota. I will say, you guys know I've had high opinions of USC and where they could go. I also watched Minnesota play 2 matches this week, and I know they were decimated by injuries, but their freshmen are starting to play some good volleyball. I think that's going to be a really interesting match between young players, and I think that dynamic could be a lot of fun.
And I ripped them apart last week for the NCAA Top 16. Watching them, they are getting better. They are definitely getting better. So I need to say that after I just ripped them apart last week.
Sunday, we got a couple bangers. 1 p.m. Eastern, Texas, Kentucky.
Yeah, baby.
Let's get it going. I want to see how far Texas can be pushed. I still think Texas is going to win this one, but I think it's going to be close. I think it could go 5. And then Sunday at 3 p.m., we also have Texas A&M versus Tennessee. Battling it out in the middle, top middle.
Yeah.
Texas A&M.
1B of the SEC, perhaps.
So, and I've liked Tennessee. I've liked what they've been doing. So I'm curious to see how they do against a star player like Nikki. Can they shut her down? How does Texas A&M adjust? If you got the time, those matches, they're going to be worth a watch.
That concludes this week's episode of Volley Talk. There's always something shaking in the volleyball world, and we hope you enjoyed this little fix. Be sure to follow the show so you don't miss any updates, and we'll be so grateful if you'd leave us a 5-star review. You can also find us on Instagram at volleytalk_podcast. If you have a topic you'd like us to discuss, be sure to reach out to us on Instagram or at info@sarahpavin.com. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll be back next week.
Bye, guys.